the examination of the galaxies of space, images begin to appear. Images of strange and powerful forces. But of all the forces in the universe, the most powerful
is Tall Can Audio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside a WrestleMania week edition of the Tall Can Audio podcast. It's Matt Robinson coming to you from our studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. Make sure you're following along on social media at Tall Can Audio and that you are subscribed to the podcast, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Pods, wherever you are. There's a follow button. There's a subscribe button. Go ahead, hit it, and make sure you get to stick around for what we got coming at you today and for upcoming episodes as well. New guest today in studio making his TCA debut. Lee Versage is here. How's it going, man?
Man, I am jacked up to be here. I thank you for having me. The TCA debut, WrestleMania week. We got some things to talk about. You and I have not got together like this.
No.
And I always bust, whether it's Graham Creech or Steve Bunda or Michaela Schreider, Vanessa Sanchez. My boss has been on this program.
That's true.
Before.
He made some news here.
Yeah, no, he likes to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so let me get this straight. Matt loves craft beer. He loves He loves wrestling.
He does, yeah.
He loves sports.
He does.
He loves great Canadian music. And we've never worked together?
Right.
Like, how has this possibly
happened?
happened?
Overdue. Long overdue.
I'm really excited to be here. You got your Bret the Hitman Hart hat on.
Yeah.
I went kind of like a double whammy today.
Yeah.
I went with my AEW Cody Rhodes American Nightmare shirt.
Yeah. Kind of, where he's been, where he's going.
Right.
Kind of a week. Yeah, I like that. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you've brought beer, which immediately moves you towards the top of the list of guests that we've always had. Like, we don't insist that guests bring beer. The deal is supposed to be, in exchange for your time, I'll take care of the beers. But sometimes people show up with beers, and I never turn it down.
Well, first of all,
yeah,
the podcast is Tall Can Audio.
That's true.
You present a platform for people to be here, and they don't bring beer? Like,
I guess it's all perspective.
List of names need to know right now, because I not only brought beer.
You did.
But I was excited, like, you're able to give me a beer. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about a little the craft beer history that I have, that you have. But I was super excited to bring, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to bring Matt a beer.
Right.
No. I bought 4 beers in the United States about 6 weeks ago that I'm like, well, I can't drink all of them. I have to bring Matt the one called Man-Child.
Yeah.
That is a peanut butter and jam.
I'm excited to
sour.
Get to that, I got to be honest with
you.
Yeah.
That's called Man-Child. It has pictures of crayons and Nintendo and everything on. I walked past it in the store. I'm like, I don't care how much this is. How could I not get this?
Right.
And I brought that for you to try and for us to try to see how we like it. And then I brought, yes, it's a little bit biased, but I brought one of my all-time, like, it's my, if you had to have one, and I don't like to ever just have one, because you got to try everything.
Sure.
Right? But if somebody said you could only have one, I brought the one that I would settle on.
Okay.
And I'm excited for you to try that.
We are going to make the listener wait to see what that one is.
Exactly.
We're going to start with a couple we pulled out of the TCA beer fridge out there. The
impressive fridge.
As Schreids calls it, the mystical fridge of wonder or something like that. So we've each gotten one from there. You've already cracked yours because you're new here. It's all right.
No, I mean, it's a full rookie mistake. But I'm just, when you make stupid mistakes, like, I don't know, watching the Sens game last night and Lindell on the faceoff dot just gloves the puck back. Hey, dude.
Hey, what are you doing?
Hey, dude,
man?
Your team is in a playoff race, begging for every point. With 4 minutes to go, you're taking one of the dumbest penalties I've ever seen. Okay, so that's what I did at the beginning of this program by cracking my beer early.
You are far from the first person.
I don't know how many people could fault me.
No.
For cracking a beer early.
No, it happens.
In a situation, right?
Exactly, man. So which one did you go with?
So I had never tried the Jam Up the Mash. Oh, see, now I talked over your
It's all right, man. It's all right.
fantastic little Collective Arts Jam Up the Mash. I obviously have seen it in a lot of different places before, but I've never tried it. And that's the beauty of this, right? Like, you have an incredible array of beers in your fridge.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get to more, but
Right.
I had never tried this one, and I'm one of those that always needs to try one first.
So
What do you got going on?
this is actually a couple weeks ago. We were talking wrestling on an earlier edition with Kevin Mickey from Sportsnet. Not sure
Okay.
if you're familiar with
Yep.
him down in. He was in town, and he was a friend we'd made through the pandemic, and we had done 1 or 2 pods remotely. And he texted me, he's like, "I'm going to be in the nation's capital. Like, kind of want to have a couple beers and talk wrestling." I'm
Right.
like, let's do it, right? So he was kind enough to bring beer as well, as you've said, man. The high end guests, that's what they do.
No, you're offering the platform. We should be offering the beer, but you're good enough to offer both. People, again, if you're listening right now and you're an invited guest, that means you're important. Bring some beer.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to capture that. That's going to be used as a stinger here moving forward. baby.
Seriously. It's not just about you. It's about the group. Bring some beer.
Yeah, I like you, man. You're going to fit in well here.
You are good enough to let me try something I've never tried.
Right.
I'm hopeful that I get to bring something that you've never tried.
And
Isn't that the deal?
Yeah. You know what?
It should be the deal.
You know what? Moving forward, maybe that'll be the deal, right? Maybe that's what we'll do.
The problem is that you and I have probably drank enough that it's tough to bring a lot of different
hard
things
to find something new now, right? They're like, have you tried that? Yeah. Have you tried that? Yeah.
I feel bad because some people, like at Christmas or holidays or presents, whatever, they'll just, you know what? I saw this in the store and I thought of you because it's like this worst beer they've ever thought of in their lives, but they thought, oh, Lee would enjoy that.
Right.
So you probably haven't tried this. And of course, I've tried it. Now, do I lie to them? You know what? That's so nice. I really haven't tried it, but inside I'm like, I've tried it. It's just eh.
Yeah, no, and that's it. So not this past year, but the year before at Christmas, my sister, who isn't between my sisters and I, it's kind of, we'll do whatever. The gifts are really for the kids, right? For the nieces and nephews and stuff like that. But she found this beer that was a Nanaimo Bar Stout, which are like 2 of my favorite things in the friggin' world, right? And I'm struggling off the top of my head to remember the brewery. It might have been Great Lakes or one of the ones down in Toronto there. And it just wasn't a very good beer. Like, it was a fine stout, but there wasn't a trace of Nanaimo Bar to it. Yeah. But I remember being like, that was incredibly thoughtful.
Right.
And I was just like, I really wanted this to be a good beer because of that.
And I always enjoy, I think there's a Nanaimo beer that I saw recently, but it was like $15 or something.
Yeah, this one was in like a big bottle, like it was like a quart or whatever, and yeah, it was expensive.
Like $15. Yeah. So when I go by, I'm like, okay, I could try this. I'm interested. Like, it's piqued my interest, but for $15 for one,
I could be having a few different things.
I could have 6 of something I like. This is a tough decision.
Yeah. So this one that Kevin Mickey brought is from the Bellwoods Brewery down in Toronto, and it's the Jutsu Pale Ale, which I've tried a lot of stuff from Bellwoods. Actually, I think there's a few things from Bellwoods still out in the studio there. But this is a pale ale. It says it has restrained bitterness in the description, which doesn't fit in here because my bitterness is not restrained at all when I come onto the microphone, right? You just kind of let fly.
You've heard me talk, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I have some as well.
Right. So looking forward to checking this one out on the first couple sips. It's not bad. It's got kind of a... It's a little dry, maybe for a pale ale. And otherwise, yeah, kind of... I wouldn't go quite as far as tropical, but kind of like a dry, fruity flavor to it. Have you had this one? You probably have.
No, I haven't. See, the one thing that you can get me on here is I always feel like I've tried everything but under my umbrella.
Sure.
So IPAs, pale ales, not under my umbrella.
I'm not a huge IPA guy either. It's growing on me a bit, and almost because I've tried everything else. So if you want to keep finding something new to have on the show, you're probably going to have some IPAs. Like, that's what these breweries seem to hang their hats on now.
They do, and that's unfortunate. I like to try as much as I possibly can. So there's a lot of different things I like, and I will try.
Yeah.
And feel like I'm really good down whether it's, flavored lagers or ciders or whatever.
Sours
stout,
or something.
sour.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of losing a little bit on sour.
I've never been big into the sour thing.
I was, but I'm not anymore.
Right.
But I have an incredibly sweet tooth. Okay. So, and that, unfortunately, for a lot of other people, translates over to my drinking.
Right.
So while everyone will order the IPA or whatever it is, I mean, I live very close to Ashton Brewing Company.
Yeah. They make nice stuff out there too, yeah.
And it's a pretty convenient thing to go out and...
Be within walking distance of a brewery.
It actually is longer to drive than it is to walk. So if I do need something, it's pretty easy to go up there.
Yeah.
But I'm the guy that's always like, so when's your maple out? Like,
right.
I go in...
That's one of the things I love about stouts. It'll be a chocolate stout. It'll be a coconut stout. It'll be like I'm in on all of that.
Like
right?
chocolate, peanut butter, give it to me and give it to me more.
Right.
So I'm like that in my drinking, especially beer and other stuff as well.
Sure.
But just with the IPAs and stuff, it's not my thing. When I do go to the brewery, sometimes they get really annoyed at me because when I ask for a draft, it's always a combination of something. So they have a good blueberry out there. So that is usually the base. And it's like, can I have a blueberry maple? Like half maple, half blueberry. Can I have, they call it their sour. It's actually a raspberry. It's not sour. It's more of a raspberry ale. But it's, can I have a half blueberry, half raspberry? Like I'm always trying something else.
Right. And if they don't have something new, you'll create something.
Right. I create it on my own. And so that's what you got to do.
Sure. No. I want to let the good listener know that on Thursday, opening day for the Toronto Blue Jays, Mike Wilner from the Toronto Star will be here on the podcast. We'll get teed up for the baseball season. And then on Monday morning, Rob's out of town. Sitting in for him to co-host that episode will be Chris Hoffley from the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group. He's been in here a few times. We're looking forward to chatting with him again. And then next week, while the Jays are in Kansas City, Dan Schulman from Sportsnet and ESPN will be on. And it'll be a lot of baseball here over the next little bit. I'm fired up for that.
You got Dan Schulman and Mike Wilner, and you invited me here? Holy God. Like, I get it. I'm above Chris Hoffley. Like, I can put myself above in that category. But Dan Schulman and Mike Wilner, let's go.
Neither one of them wanted to talk about WrestleMania.
But I'm so glad you do a lot of baseball. I don't think sometimes at TSN 1200 we do enough baseball. I don't know.
Is that partly the rights thing, maybe, or on TV? I'm sure it is, but regional radio, you kind of get to do what you want, right? Or not?
Yeah, like nobody's ever said that you can't do this or you can't do that. I probably wouldn't listen to them anyway if they did tell me that. But no, I'm a big Blue Jays fan. It just sometimes it gets lost in. We hear from a lot of hockey people and a lot of football people, and baseball, unfortunately for some, is a bit of a dying sport. And I'm glad that you're able to do this because I'm a diehard Blue Jays fan and always have been. I was telling you before the show, grew up in Toronto, and was my first memories of going to baseball games was Exhibition Stadium, and I almost
wind whipping off the lake. And
I almost got my fondest memory. I don't really remember it, but I went to the game with my grandfather, and Jesse Barfield hit a foul ball, and if my grandfather didn't put his arm out, I might have died. Like, it hit him, bruised him. Like, Jesse Barfield came over after the game, signed the ball, signed some other things, because it was like, oh, this poor kid almost died.
Signed my bandage.
I don't really remember it other than I remember meeting Jesse Barfield. Yeah. I remember the bruise on my grandfather's arm, and he said he protected me, so I'm guessing he did.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, back then, and the Jays winning the pennant for the first time in '85, and going to games at the Dome the first year it opened, and all through the World Series, going to games in '92 and '93, skipping school to go to the parade. I remember my parents were so mad because it was like high school and tests and exams, and it's like you gotta go to university and you gotta get this, and it was like, you understand?
It's a parade, World Series, best in the.
And incredibly, they opened up the Dome. We were sitting in the Dome for the parade in '92, and they just did general admission. Like,
first in,
literally, open the doors,
run for your seat,
and they opened the doors at 8 a.m. Well, I don't think the cars started coming through, and Dave Winfield was bringing down the banner till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We were in the dome all day, just
waiting.
Whatever we snuck in was gone by 10 o'clock.
Right. Yeah, no. And I'm sure the beer stands, not in high school, it wouldn't help you much, but
No.
at 9, 10 a.m., they were probably open for the people waiting there for the... So.
And then that's all I remember. I remember exactly where I was when, they won both World Series and falling asleep and my parents waking me up going, you're going to want to see this.
Right.
When the Blue Jays fell down the 15-14 game that they won against the Phillies.
Yeah. Dave Stewart, I
and
think,
they were
pitched
down
that-
14-8 and
Yeah.
somehow I'd fallen asleep and they woke me up. You're like, you better wake up.
Right.
Things are happening here. So yeah, just great memories. I'm glad you're doing a lot of stuff because I'm probably more into baseball than people know or that we talk about, unfortunately.
Right. Well, there'll always be a spot here to come talk baseball, man.
Hey,
Summer beers and baseball.
You know
We'll do
what?
that.
It's wrestling number one.
Yes.
It might be craft beer number one, but craft beer and wrestling tied for number one, and then everything else underneath.
So where do you jump into the craft beer scene? When does that kind of, I've talked about it before on this show, so I'll just hit it quickly. That like we started the pod in 2015, and the idea was to create like a pub table environment, just sit around, hang out, talk about whatever's going on, and have a beer or two. But I wasn't a craft beer guy at that point. I was into some imports, and we'd try some different things, but it was more about having a beer than experimenting with beer. And it was sort of maybe a year or so into the pod where now the craft beer scene across Ontario is exploding, and we just kind of fell into it, right? And then it became a thing where every week we'll grab a different craft beer and we'll try it.
Right.
Then when does it get your attention? And do you remember what the first one or two that, outside the macros that got your attention were?
Well, and you say the macros, but I think the first real, God, I can't remember when it was. It would have been like, when did Bose open? Because when Bose opened,
Yeah, they were here a little earlier than that, right? Like 2010, maybe?
I was going to say 2011, 2012, but whatever it was. And I have actually a pretty crazy story about Bose.
Sure.
Ask me about it in a second.
All right.
I remember going out there and kind of touring around and going, what is this? Like, okay, it's somebody different. They're doing their own thing. Cool. Hope it goes well. And then remembering going like into a regular bar wherever I was here in Ottawa. You have Bose?
Right.
Huh. How come? And then as, I've moved out to Ashton about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was. But, again, that was another one that was a little bit bigger where I would go into pubs and I would see the ABC logo and be like, that's kind of cool.
catching on,
That's
yeah.
kind of cool. Like, it's from here. Like, I'm going to drink it because it's from here and I don't mind it. And I'd rather drink something from here that I don't mind.
Right.
So I did that with Bose initially because they were from here. But I'm not saying anything negative about them. I think they're an amazing company. They just didn't do anything
Didn't branch out
necessarily
much.
for me
Right.
that I particularly loved. So it was like, I'll drink it because they're from here and whatever. And if
Support
I'm out,
local.
Yeah, support local. But for me, the irony of me now moving to Ashton is that I think the first one that I really loved was the blueberry wheat ale from Ashton.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very sweet drinker.
Right.
Like I like that sort of thing. So for me, I get in and okay, now I like it. Now I want to go out there. And when I went out there to get some, because a lot of people, and I'm sure you might know this, I mean, you will, but for other people listening, I only knew of Ashton through Patty's Pub and Quinn's on Bank Street.
Right.
And then somebody, it must have been a bartender or something, told, well, you can go out there and get like a growler,
much as you want,
a growler or whatever. And so I think one day I trekked out and I got to Ashton and got a couple of growlers. Thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And to be able to go there and bring home the growlers and be drinking local of something that I liked, that was what first got me into it. And it's just a coincidence that I've moved out there the last little while. But that kind of got me into it. And then, I think every now and again I would drink stuff, but it wasn't until a year or two before the pandemic when I really started sort of, hey, I'm going to branch my taste out, and everyone would make fun of me because I was the guy that Ian Mendez would always say it, and Graham Creech and Steve Bunda, I hope they're listening. Like, hey, we'll all drink our adult drinks, and you can have whatever.
Ian Mendez does not get to rip anyone's beer taste, I don't think.
You know what? You said it, and if you clip this, I'll give that to him because you're absolutely right.
He's been in here a bunch of times.
Yeah,
right?
and you know what? He likes to call out people,
him and his Michelob Ultras.
Oh, exactly. Oh, you and I are going to be such good friends. I'm telling you, because you'd be like, oh, what grade 9 prom drink are you drinking tonight? And I'm like, great. Because I like ciders.
Right.
Like, get off my back. So, but it wasn't about a year or two before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, there was nothing to do.
No.
Right? For anyone. And
they started delivering.
Well, it wasn't that for me.
It wasn't for me.
So
they just show up at your door.
Yeah, it was it for a lot of people. But for something to do, I would go out and make it like a trip of sort of where,
tour out somewhere, get something,
like where we had gone and different places. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, over about a year, it was like, okay, I've done now every brewery within like an hour and a half radius. And started branching out. Started going to Kingston. Started going to...
What's Belleville got going on?
My mom used to live in Wapoose in Prince Edward County.
Okay,
So that went down there.
Apparently got a huge scene right now.
Oh, yeah, huge.
It used to be just wineries. Now they're...
Huge.
Yeah.
But to be able to do that and kind of reach out to see what everyone had... It was the pandemic for me.
Yeah.
And started bringing things home, and my fridge looked about 3 times as big as yours as it does in there. And people would come over and go, well, there wasn't a lot. The people
Not
that
a
were
whole
in
lot of visiting,
the people that were in my circle,
right? Yeah,
would say, should we be worried? I'm like, no, I'm telling you, there's only one of like everything, because I would just try. I got to get this because I haven't tried it. Right. I haven't seen it before, and I
may not be back here. Right. Like if I'm in,
and that was the point.
Yeah,
that if I go somewhere that I don't think I'm going to be for a while, I'm probably going to get 1 or 2, not because I need it, just because I'm at here. Some point would like to try it.
Yep.
So that's really how it started for me, and like got me to the next level of what I'm drinking and what I like, and now it's like,
yeah, it's just I'm sure you get the same question I do from people that are like, okay, but you've tried however many 100 beers now, like, do you not at some point just want to go, okay, these are like my 5 or 6 favorites, and grab like 12 of those for a weekend? And we're like, no, I always want to see what the next one is. I got to find out what the new one is, right? Like I do have, like anybody, some favorites, but for the most part, no, it's more about trying the new one,
100%,
than settling on this one and just buying 12 of them.
100%.
Yeah.
So I have some family down in Florida, and I was down there for a while looking after my uncle, and he's been down there since 2007. He's the only family I've left on my Versage side.
Right.
So we're quite close. Mm-hmm. But Total Wine and Spirits is a store, and I was telling you about it before.
Yes.
It's like Costco, but beer and wine. Like aisles and carts, and like you can't see down the end of the aisles. And there's classrooms because they have wine tastings and wine schools and different things. They have a full aisle and separate room for cigars, and like it is... It's like if you're a tool guy and you love to go to Home Depot or Rona or whatever it is, if you like beer and wine, you'll never come out of this place.
That's amazing.
And so
hook it to my veins.
So some of it, and I went to, coming up on a year now, I went to Maine last May, I guess, for the first time. Maine and New Hampshire. Oh, yeah. I've been to New Hampshire a couple of times, but I'd never been to Maine. So
I don't know anybody who's ever been to New Hampshire a couple of times. I'm not sure what.
Well, it's great. I love it.
I'm sure it is. It's not one of those tourist places.
You're right. You pass through more than anything else. But
sure.
But went to a couple of places, one in New Hampshire and one in Portland, Maine, and I think got a beer that turned out to be the greatest beer.
That's the problem.
I've ever had.
It's like a 9-hour drive to get it again.
No, and here's the thing. So I walked into the brewery that we're supposed to go to, or like we went and you got to go to this place. It was amazing. Allagash, I'm sure you've heard of Allagash Brewing. They do a lot of national stuff in the U.S.
Yeah.
But, it was really cool to go there and to sit outside and you kind of go up and you get a ticket and it's all done for you and you go and you got about 19 choices of what you can have and you sit outside and there's 1,800 dogs and whatever. But I looked across the street. I'm like, there's another brewery across the street. I got to go there.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
I
right
know,
here.
I know we're sitting here, but I got to go there too. It's right there. So I walk across the street and they're doing a collaboration with 3 other breweries. Okay.
I've stumbled into the perfect day.
And I'm going to show you this picture. It's from Definitive Brewing Company in Portland, Maine.
Okay.
And it's a collaboration with definitely a brewery in Toledo, Ohio, and one in
Toledo, Ohio.
I want to say Detroit.
Okay.
And them. So the 3 brewers get together and they come up. It's called Euphoric Frubulus.
I dig the name.
It's a
The next tag team champions.
double fruited sour ale.
Yeah.
With strawberry, marshmallow, and peanut butter.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Diabetes in a can. I'm all in on that.
Or something I love.
Yeah, no, I'm in on it. It's not going to be good.
I've been thrown off, and this is what I'm starting to learn more because we always are learning things.
Yeah.
Well, you're the smartest guy I know, and if Graham Creech,
That's a shame.
yeah, Graham Creech tells me that you're the smartest guy ever, but he thinks he is. So then it gets into this,
it kind of taints.
Here comes Vanessa Sanchez saying that she is, and it's like, guys, girls, come on.
Yeah.
I'm learning that the double fruited sours are usually not sour.
Okay. That's not what you're pulling out of them. It's not an overly sour.
So this one that I've just described is basically Fruit Loops in a beer.
I haven't had those in a while.
Incredible.
In a beer or not?
I know, but
Are you a Simpsons guy?
No.
Oh, okay. I just think there's a scene where Homer Simpson walks into the Quickie Mart. He asks Apu, I'd like some of that Skittle Brow. It's the beer with Skittles in it. And he's like, Mr. Simpson, I think you've just made that up. It's like, all right, well, then I'll just take a 6-pack and some Skittles. That's the Fruit Loops.
I need to be
I think
a
so.
Simpsons guy.
Yeah.
This is the best beer I've ever had.
Okay. Wow.
I kept it as long as I could. I only bought 4 at the time because I didn't realize how great it was.
Right.
Because I only got a taster, and it was like $7 a can. US, like $100 Canadian, whatever it was.
And they get a little uppity coming back across the border if you have more than like a 12 or whatever, right? Like, you got to skim that a bit.
I've had my fair share, but for people going over from Ottawa, I know you have listeners from all over, but if you're going over the border from Ottawa, in Watertown, go to Bear World.
Okay.
Bear World.
B-A-R-E or B-E-A-R?
B-E-A-R.
Okay, because the other one sounds like a great strip club.
World.
Okay.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
But, yes, you know what?
Going over to Bear World.
I'm wondering what would be better, though, because their selection of craft beer is like no other.
Yeah.
And it's one of those shops that you go in and you kind of go, should I even be in here? Like, I'm a little bit worried about where it is in town and the clientele. But then you walk in and you realize.
Sounds like the strip club.
Yeah. And then same thing. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, incredible
Bear
spot.
World, yeah.
And it's right on the way home in Watertown.
Yeah.
In fact, it's on the same road. If you, for those who cross in Ogdensburg and kind of come through the 37 and sort of the back roads into Watertown, it's right along that road.
Okay. Had no idea.
Yeah. Incredible spot. Did I forward you the Barry Manilow one?
No, I don't think so.
No, I'll have to show.
Maybe.
I'll have to show you the.
There was when you were down in Florida. You sent me a bunch. I was
Yeah.
like, man, this guy's having a good holiday.
Right? But that's what I do on the holidays. I go and search out different breweries, and I'll go and have one, or I'll go and have two. But it's not about the amount, right? It's about I've never been here before. I want to try something different. This is super cool.
Same, man. Same.
So that's what it's all about for me. And so
There's
I just gotta find the Barry Manilow one because it's here it is. So
Beery Manilow.
right.
All right.
Tell me that that's not like the greatest picture.
That looks amazing, man.
Right? It's Barry Manilow. His face is a strawberry.
Yeah.
And it's a fruited sour with black currant, blackberry, blueberry, golden berry. Don't even know what golden berry really is. Raspberry, strawberry, and huckleberry.
Okay. Huckleberry.
Yeah. Like there's like 7 different berries, and the can is worth buying it alone.
It's a work of art. I just have to display
Myers
this.
Creek Brewing Company. Anyway.
All right. I like it, man. And that's what my vacations have become. Well, even not vacation, but just like, whatever, you got to go down to Sarnia for a weekend or something. Well, let's see what breweries Sarnia's got while I'm here, right? Like, and even if you can't hang out, I'm just going to make sure I grab 6 or 8 or 12 or something and come back. And then a couple weeks later, you're off to. They opened up a new brewery not far from the family cottage there a couple summers ago. And if I'm being honest, I was a little disappointed when I went in there in the beers. But you still go because you want them to make it, right? They're going to figure it out. They're going to get better. And I want this one brewery in this tiny little town to survive because it's kind of cool. Like we've talked about, to just have it right there.
I have a hat on right now that is kind of my new hat that I wear, and it's KAP. It's called Kick and Push.
Yeah,
Brewing
and Charlotte Lake.
That's right.
Yeah.
Stopped in.
Haven't been in yet.
Stopped in. It's in a little wooden house, and I stopped in just because it looked like the coolest place in the world. I was on my way to, my grandparents for a holiday, and I'm like, I got to stop there. And had a great conversation with the 2 guys. One guy owns it there, and the other guy's kind of a partner in Toronto area, and had an unbelievable conversation with him because his daughter, turns out, was the roommate of Eugene Melnick's daughter.
No way.
At Queen's University. And
Small
so
world.
he started telling me all these things about
Sure.
it. I'm like, I could probably sit down at your and the bar's got about 4 chairs there.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's just such a classic. You'd love to go there and just sit down and talk to the owners if nobody else was there and have a beer type of place.
Yeah, I was driving down to. Well, I was headed to the lake.
It's impressive that you know the Kick and Push on Sharp.
Well, I was just gonna say it's so funny, man, because our mutual friend Shrides, she was in a wedding last fall in Toronto, so she went down early because I think she was the maid of honor or a bridesmaid or something. So her husband Josh was going to be driving back, and I think you know him as well, but he's a big craft beer guy.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to hitch a ride with you, and I'm going to just jump out at Peterborough or wherever, and I'm going to go to the family cottage from there. And so he and I peel out of here on a Friday morning at, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was. And neither one of us are really paying attention. We're just kind of shooting the shit, and we get to Charlotte Lake. He's like, fuck, new brewery. Like, it just eagle eye. Like, it just caught him out of nowhere. Like, we're in Charlotte Lake, man. There's not a brewery. He's like, no, it's right.
Seriously. And it's hidden kind of in that spot. It's right by the LCBO and the beer store.
Yeah, but it was only like 9:30 in the morning, so they weren't open yet. So that was kind of a bummer. And then the next
how long did you wait till they open?
Yeah, exactly. He's just sitting there in the car waiting. Yeah, and then the other couple times I've been by, I'm always coming back from the family cottage on like a Monday. Most breweries are closed, right? So I haven't been in yet, but yeah, it's like on my list, like this one brewery, oddly in Charlotte Lake, that I need to
because
check
those
out.
are my favorite places. The one odd brewery that you don't expect to be somewhere is everywhere I want to be.
It was just so funny. Josh's react, like mid sentence, he's like, new brewery. Out here? Yeah, I saw it.
That sounds like Josh.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Has he, has Josh done okay as far as getting something cooler past Michaela when they get a keg at their house? Because I think Michaela runs the show there, and look, she runs a tight ship with She's Got Game. It's a fantastic program.
100%.
Vanessa Sanchez.
Bouchoir podcast.
New permanent co-host.
Yeah.
She only told us that 16 times on her latest Friday afternoon hit. So it was nice. By the 15th time, we started listening to her.
Yeah, sure.
But
you gotta
runs things. Like, Josh, come on. Get something else other than like a session ale or something in your keg. You have a keg at your house.
We got a keg fridge out here too, so that when they were looking around, I got a bunch of questions on, hey, would you do this? I'm like, I am anything but an expert on this. I just looked for the biggest possible thing that would hold beer in this house and went from there, right? So they're awesome to spend a little time with as well.
Yeah, they're good people.
Yeah, for sure. So, look, before we'll take a break here in a second to grab another beer, but before we do, I was wondering what your take was on the commissioner's visit to Ottawa earlier this week. I know a huge part of what goes on over at TSN 1200 is obviously covering the Senators. I'm sure for you, it was a welcome respite that they actually went on a bit of a run to keep their playoff hopes alive significantly longer than it looked earlier, like they would. But the commissioner was here talking about the sale of the team and how that was going to play out from here. Spoke to some local politicians, spoke to the media, was at the Sens game on Monday. What did you take away from Gary's visit to the nation's capital?
I'll call him Mr. Bettman to be polite. Okay. Because, look, Gary Bettman, and I think this is probably, I don't know if it's a misconception, but I just don't know how many people get this part. Gary Bettman, Roger Goodell, Adam Silver, no matter who else, they work for the owners who run the leagues.
Yep.
So when people get all upset, Gary Bettman makes $10 million. Who cares? Gary Bettman works for 32 owners in the National Hockey League. And
to take
honestly,
bullets for them,
right,
and to say things they don't want to say.
And whether I like Gary Bettman, and I'm going to preface this with, if I like Gary Bettman, if you like Gary Bettman, the only thing that matters is if the owners like Gary Bettman.
Yep.
That's it.
100%.
So
I feel like he could do his job slightly less condescendingly, though, when speaking to the media. I understand his role, but he bugs me that he looks down his nose at the media or at the fans.
Well, I think you are one of many that feel that way. Yep. I also feel that way.
Yeah. We're not stupid.
But
Gary.
nothing that ever happens now do I take him ever at face value.
Nobody tanks.
Oh.
So.
No way.
That's silly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary.
I don't take him at face value ever.
Yeah.
And I know that at some point we'll get into wrestling.
Yeah.
And I only bring that up because in wrestling, almost everything is a work.
Of course.
Whether you think it's a shoot or it's a work, it's probably a work.
Yeah.
There are very rare exceptions, but so when I listen to Gary Bettman, all I hear is and what he is doing, and let's make no mistake about this, okay? I don't know what the number is, but I know the Ottawa Senators owe the National Hockey League a lot of money.
Right.
I know a lot of teams, the Arizona Coyotes,
of course,
and some other teams owe the National Hockey League money because they have loaned them money on the side to keep things going or to make sure that they are able to do certain things. That's how they run their league.
Right.
So when I hear Gary Bettman come in and say, this is the most vibrant sale process that I've ever seen, and what I do believe is that he said around 6, and whether it's 5 or 6 or 7, I've talked to enough people to know how many people are genuinely interested in buying the Ottawa Senators.
Right.
That's great.
Sure.
And I think that's great for people to know that not only is this team not moving, but this team will be here for a long period of time, and it will be run, hopefully, cross your fingers, in a different and better way than it has previously been run over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So all of that is really good. But when I hear Gary Bettman come into town, all I hear is that I don't know how much the Ottawa Senators owe the National Hockey League, but I know it's a big number.
Yeah.
Well, of course he is going to do everything possible to make you and the bidders and me and every fan think that this team is worth, oh my God, is it going to be 900 million? Is it going to be $1 billion?
His job's to get that number as high as he can get it.
Is it going to be 1.1?
Yeah.
For why would we care if it's 1.1 or 1.2 billion?
Right.
The only thing that matters is they're owed a lot of money, the National Hockey League, by the Senators, by different things that they get into. I'm just talking about Ottawa.
Yep.
Whether they're owed by the Coyotes, whether they're owed by any other franchise.
And it's great moving forward, right? The Ottawa sold for this, so we won't take less for whatever the next market is.
They are not only setting the market for the next team, but let's just ballpark a number. Like, I have no idea, and I'll say I have no idea what the number is.
Right.
But if I ballparked a few $100 million?
In terms of what's owed?
Yeah.
Sure, I'd believe it.
Okay. So let's just say it's that.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm Gary Bettman, of course I want 1.1 billion. I want 1.2 billion.
Yeah.
I want all of that debt erased.
Yeah.
And I want to make some money that I can give to the other owners.
Does that worry you? Like,
no.
That to me it does a little, and I'm a Leaf guy. I could possibly care less if the Sens are successful or not.
Right.
But I would be worried
we
that
could possibly. I say we, as it like. So I grew up in just outside Toronto,
Yeah.
and I very, very much dislike the Leafs.
Yeah.
But that comes from the Pat Quinn, Darcy Tucker,
Sure, yeah.
Travis Green.
it was a fairly unlikable team.
like Gary Roberts. They were as unlikable could be.
Yeah.
But they were good enough to get past a really skilled team, and they've won 0 playoff series since they've
I had
beat
no
Ottawa.
idea. Yeah.
No, since they beat Ottawa,
Yeah.
they've won 0.
Yeah. No, you're right about that.
So-
all I was going to say is I would be a little worried that blinds the league to get the most money as opposed to get the best group.
Well, they'll do both.
I guess so.
Well, they will.
Yeah.
Because I think what will matter the most is tying some local groups into this, in getting the face of Ryan Reynolds. I don't think
But he's now tied to one group.
Yeah, but I don't
right?
think you can put the genie back in the bottle. I don't think you can tell people now.
You don't.
Ryan Reynolds
You get a great
associated-
ownership group, but you don't get Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds associated himself with a group because he has leverage.
Yes, he does, for sure.
He associated himself with a group that I'm not sure the NHL loves, but he knew that because he has the most sort of equity in that group, and he knows eventually the NHL needs him. You can't. How are you going to tell the people of Ottawa now that Ryan Reynolds?
The NHL needs him. The NHL wants him,
But they've told everybody of Ottawa.
Yeah.
Go meet someone on the street
That was
doesn't
shrewd
know,
by him.
that doesn't know anything about hockey.
No, I know,
and they'll
for
tell
sure.
you
For sure.
Is Ryan Reynolds going to be a part of the Sens?
You'll have people across the United States who've never cared about the NHL in their lives that are Ryan Reynolds fans will suddenly know who the Ottawa
I can
Senators
tell you.
are,
So I was
right?
in Florida not too long ago. Like I said, I walked into, if you can imagine this, a liquor store, and
I believe you.
was there for an hour. And
As you do,
and a guy came up to me that works there, and he had this hat on, and he had all 4 Pittsburgh logos on the hat.
Okay, yeah.
He had Pirates and
and-
Steelers and Penguins and the University of Pittsburgh. And he started talking to me. He said, we started talking, and he found out that I worked in sports radio, and he's a huge, he's from Pittsburgh. He loves everything Pittsburgh.
Right.
And he says, can I ask you a question? What is 2 things? What is LeBreton Flats?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a fair question from anyone who doesn't live here.
No, a guy that works in a liquor store
Yeah,
in St.
exactly.
Augustine, Florida,
He has no idea.
is asking me about what LeBreton Flats
yeah.
is. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And second of all, he's asking me about Ryan Reynolds. So I don't know how you're going to put the Ryan Reynolds thing back in the bottle and say we don't need him after all.
But isn't that like the Ryan Reynolds group? And even if they were the best group, and it has Ryan Reynolds, but it only offers $900 million. Someone else offers you 1.1. You might be better off to just take the 9 and not the highest number.
What you
right?
do is you make those groups work together.
I guess. I'm not sure all of them are super interested in that, right?
No,
Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
Imagine running $1 billion company and then somebody telling you, hey, you got to work with this person.
Right.
You can't do it on your own. No, I built this $1 billion
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, well,
So the egos are really hard to put aside.
100%.
But you know who has the final say? The Board of Governors
Yep.
and Gary Bettman. And he's got a lot of sway with the people that make the decisions.
For sure
So
he does, yeah.
it's great. I could offer you $1.5 billion for the team. But if you're not working with Ryan and you're not doing some other things, I think that's what's taking so long.
trying to get somebody to work together.
He said now all of a sudden it's another 6 weeks, kind of early to midsummer, and I think there's some worrisome things as far as where the team might go, next year and the year after, because the decision makers, will they be in place in time? I think that's a legitimate
like a new
worry.
management team.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate worry from a fan base.
Yep.
But the time, I believe, is trying to understand that, hey, we're not going to give you this team unless you do this.
Right.
So you can tell us all about the money, but there's other groups that are there with the money. And that's why he's making it seem like, oh, this is the most vibrant process ever. Well, no, it's a process that a lot of people want to buy the Ottawa Senators.
Right.
That is true. But they need to make the most money and have it work together with, I think, some local groups and Ryan Reynolds, and putting egos aside is not the easiest thing to do. And I think they're going to take another 6 to 8 weeks to try and put those egos aside.
Okay, so back in. New beers. We're going to talk some WrestleMania here shortly, but I
just forgot and opened the beers again off microphone.
It's all right, man. You'll get it. It's all right. It's all right.
Not the brightest guy in the world.
You're just those rookie mistakes, right?
Yep.
That's how it goes.
Nervous.
Sure, yeah.
Nervous.
We're into the beers you've brought now.
Okay.
So why don't you tee us up here? What do we got going on? Because we got two poured here.
We do. So we're going to try a couple of them. Number one is the one I described earlier. It's called Man-Child, and it's a peanut butter and jelly Berliner. So
and you can smell the peanut butter as soon as you started pouring these.
So
I'm pumped for this.
It's a sour.
Okay. Peanut butter sour. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's interesting. What's the brewery on this one?
But it is from Hidden Springs Ale Works.
Okay.
So the beer, when I walked by this, and I found this in the Total Wine and Spirits place, is that it's called Man-Child. And it's got, a teddy bear. It's got a Nintendo controller. It's got crayons.
Just awesome.
It's got a pool ball. I don't know that I couldn't walk past it. You could only buy 4. You couldn't buy 1. You could only buy 4, and I'm like, I just have
Could you only buy 4, or could you only buy them in 4s? Like, could you have bought 8 or 12?
Yes, I could have bought 8 or 12, but because I wasn't allowed to try it.
Yeah, you don't know.
I really try hard when I go different places to try one first.
Yeah,
before
100%.
I'll dig in, and I couldn't do that. But I'm like, I can't not buy this.
Yes.
So.
We'll post the picture of the can on our Instagram at Tall Can Audio.
Yeah, it's called Man-Child, and it's a peanut butter and jelly beer. Come on.
I'm so excited. And I'm fascinated once you said this is a sour. I
know.
I had a lot of peanut butter stouts, a lot of whatever. I've never tried a peanut butter sour, so I'm curious to see what this one looks like.
Smell it
You
first.
can, yeah.
And it smells like a peanut butter and jam
does.
beer.
Yeah,
which is
like when you open your lunchbox at elementary school.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
less boozy.
The second best beer I've ever had, as you go to try it here, the second best beer I ever had was actually in Savannah, Georgia. They had a peanut butter and jelly ale.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So what is your first?
It's more tart than I would have expected, right?
Right.
It's like you definitely get that peanut butter and jam flavor from it, but yeah, you would more expect like a brown ale kind of something or a stout kind of thing, but it's very tart on the back end.
Yes.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as I was describing, there was a beer, it was called Lunch Bag in Savannah, Georgia, and they only had it on tap in what they called the Savannah Tap House. Savannah, by the way, maybe my favorite place on earth.
I keep hearing this. It's suddenly a thing. Like one of my closest friends.
It's not suddenly. It's
to me, it's sudden.
Okay.
I'm suddenly hearing people talk.
Well, you're going to hear me talk about it a lot. I've probably gone 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah.
And I will continue to go back. I had
a friend trying to move there. My parents were just trying to go down and visit there, like as a tourist spot.
Wow.
Like
So, number 1, one of the most historical cities you'll ever be in. Number 2, the downtown is so kept well. No tall buildings. There's
like a river up the middle, isn't there?
Spanish moss trees.
Yeah.
It is the most gorgeous place you'll ever walk around. And so you'll walk around and you won't even feel like you're in a city. You'll just feel like you're in this sort of historic place. And again, yeah, it's on the river that goes into the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
And it's probably the safest place I've ever felt in a
Really?
city. Yeah. Like you can walk around at any place. Oh, by the way, did I mention it's in what do they call it? Alcohol-friendly city. So it's one of the few cities that you can walk around.
Yeah, like Vegas or...
So the first time I was ever there, I went into a bar. I was by myself, going on a tour of the States by myself, and went into a World of Beer place, which I wanted to go to a local place, but I went there first, and they were playing trivia.
Okay.
And the bartender says to me, he's like this scientist guy, like the smartest guy I've ever seen. And he's like, we need you.
Outside of me and Creech.
That's a good point by you. He's actually smarter than Creech.
Okay.
So
I believe it.
yeah, not tough. So the ability, though, for him to get me into this trivia was that they can't drink It's a World of Beer and they didn't have any food. So he's like, we can't drink for free, like the staff.
Right, okay.
So we have to win the trivia because the prizes are like money towards
Food.
the bar.
Yeah.
And we can't drink for free. We're not allowed because they have everything so measured. And he says, please stay. He's like, I'll buy you food. I'm like, what do you mean you'll buy me food?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, you don't have food here. He's like, shows me a list. What do you want? I'm like, oh, that looks good. So he gets a Jimmy John's guy to come and deliver a sub to my bar stool. Okay.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
So already I'm in. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, whatever you want.
I'm here.
He's like, you can drink for free as long as you're on the team. Sure.
Yeah.
Gets down to the final question. We're second of the like 8 groups. We're second. Final question. Name as many Canadian provinces as you possibly can.
Okay, well, here's all of them.
Okay. I hardly reacted. And the guy, whose name was Jake, goes, yeah! And the whole bar turns around.
Yeah.
He's Canadian! And I'm like, oh my God. So I thought it was really interesting. I said, why don't you, Jake, and the rest of the wait staff name as many as you
What
guys
do you got?
can,
And then I'll talk.
and then I'll just finish it off.
Yeah.
How many did they come up with?
3.
None.
None.
0.
Nobody was just throwing out Toronto or...
No, the people threw it out.
Yeah.
So my group came up with 0.
Okay.
However, we got 13.
Yeah,
We won because they had a ringer on their team. But incredibly, the other groups, I thought it was super interesting. And I walked around and sort of asked them, hey, like, how many did you get? Like, what's going on here? The top group had 6. And they got 6 because they had a retired social studies teacher
Okay.
that had retired like 3 years ago. And I'm like, you only got 6? Dude, like what's happening?
Small wonder the American education system is...
You taught and you got 6? So then this other group comes up to me and is like, how many we got? How many we got? I want you to check our list. And they got this definitely list and the maybe list.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
The definitely lists consists of 3 things.
Okay.
The definitely list said Ontario,
Okay.
Newfoundland,
Yeah.
and Ottawa.
Oh.
Under the definitely list. And I'm like, okay, well, this one's wrong.
Yeah. But you got the capital.
No, but they argued with me. And like no,
I live
that one's right 100% because I've been there. I'm like,
no one's saying it doesn't exist.
I'm like, you won't believe this, but I actually live there and it is the nation's capital, but it's not a province. No, I'm telling you, I've been there. It is. I'm like,
I don't. How do you even argue with that?
you
right?
don't. You walk away. And I drank for free the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And I went out, and the guy's like, the whole group that was next to me. And I didn't know it was
Did they hoist you up on their
I didn't
shoulders?
know it was an alcohol-friendly city. The whole group leaves, and they got beers in their hand. And I was, Jake, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
He's like, I'll fill your cup up with 100 proof rum. Go spill it on the cup. See what he says. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that.
That's probably not what I'm going to. Yeah.
And anyway,
Yeah.
he goes, the cop will say, wow, that sucks
Yeah.
for you. Anyway, Savannah is one of the best places I've ever been. I will continue to go back. Prettiest city. Probably best bar
You
I've
can
ever
probably walk into that bar and drink for free whenever you want.
Best bar I've ever been to, called the Alley Cat Lounge in an alley. Okay?
Okay. Yeah. Makes good sense.
Yep. Scared for my life the first time I ever went there.
Yeah.
And was in an alley at midnight in Savannah. I actually felt safe. Didn't feel weird, but it was out the back of this door. And I opened the door, and I'm with a guy that I've just met at another bar. And he's like, I'll guard the door. Go down the 25 steps to another door. Like, I don't even know that this place exists. I'm going to get killed. But you know what? I'm here for it, so I might as well go down.
Yeah.
Open the door, best bar I've ever been in.
Before you got there, would you have called it a forbidden door before you'd been inside?
Oh, I just got my tickets.
Okay. I was just going to ask. AEW coming back to Canada later this summer. The Forbidden Door, for those who are more casual wrestling fans, alludes to the idea of jumping between promotions. And so this was a pay-per-view they did last year with New Japan. And looks like it's going down again this year in Toronto. I was going to ask. And it sounds like you have. You've got your tickets locked in. You're all in on this thing.
All in.
All in.
And for those who want to go or are already going, I want you to get a hold of me.
There you go.
We're going down. We're going to do a big This Is Wrestling podcast meetup
Nice.
in Toronto. So
Except for Zach, who's going to be in Oshawa. That's what I heard on This Is Wrestling.
No, he'll be there.
I
Just
know,
don't
I
stop
know.
it. Stop it. And you're going to come on This Is Wrestling
That's going to be fun, man.
to give some WrestleMania predictions as well. But to have that opportunity to go to the pay-per-view, to have a meetup, to be able to do that, AEW, just killing it.
Yeah, they're got plans to be out Western Canada for the first time. I know they were just in Winnipeg, but I guess they're going to hit Alberta and Saskatchewan later in the summer. Like,
My favorite promotion I think I've ever been a part of.
really?
Yeah. And I was a guy, it's really hard because when I was growing up in the 90s, I was a major like wrestling geek, tape collector,
Sure.
you name it. Like I would wait for my buddy. I didn't have a satellite dish.
You have a fairly legendary T-shirt collection of wrestling tees.
Oh, I do. Yes.
It's infamous. We've all heard.
It is.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, but for people who appreciate it, the
Yeah.
best thing you'll ever see.
Of course.
But then the people who don't appreciate it go, what are you possibly doing with your life?
Such is life as a wrestling fan.
Right. That's how you live.
Yeah.
But I was a tape collector, and one of my buddies like, you got to watch this ECW show, 1994.
Right.
And started about every 2 months, I would drive from Markham to Burlington just to pick up 2 months worth of tapes and drive back and basically watch.
From like somebody's house or a flea market? Or,
yeah, no, somebody's house.
Okay.
Well, a buddy that taped on satellite, and he was a tape distributor.
Right.
And,
That was it. I don't even think we didn't get ECW in Canada till like 99, 2000.
Yeah,
It was
and
on
that was
s-
way too late.
Yeah.
Like some of the best programming you'll ever see, 95, 96 ECW, if you can watch the television. I still go back and watch it, some of the promos, because they didn't care. They were in somebody. It was like, I don't say I don't care about this, but it was like us sitting around.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, Matt, go tape a 10-minute promo over there. See what it looks like. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Taz and Mick Foley and Steve
Because
Austin.
we're literally going to cut it down to 3 minutes anyway, so we'll just keep the good shit, delete the...
Yeah.
It was in Paul Heyman's basement.
Right.
And you're just like...
And they sometimes
It's a punk
didn't,
rock.
They sometimes didn't cut it. It'd be
No.
like, hey, we're going to end our show with a 10-minute promo.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. So
Vince McMahon stole it, turned it into
yeah, I know.
WWF Attitude.
But
and
I
off
went to.
the
I used to
rest.
go to Buffalo to watch ECW. I went to November to Remembers in Pittsburgh. Like I was a traveling wrestling nerd in the 90s. Like I was at Halloween Havoc 1995 at the Joe Louis Arena in one of the worst pay-per-views I've ever
That's
watched.
the giant
Yes,
Cobo Hall.
it certainly is.
The monster truck match.
And I'm
Oh my
embarrassed
God.
to tell people that I was there, and I watched it on the screen just like you did, and drove through the worst snowstorm ever to get there to watch Hogan and the Giant on a screen on the roof to have somebody thrown off of the roof, and guess what? They're okay.
Yeah. Like an hour later.
Oh, I was so
wrestled.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
But anyway,
those
great
are the
history. But AEW reminds me of the ECW. It does. I mean, Tony Khan was a guy that went to those ECW shows in Philadelphia all the time as a kid.
Yeah.
And so
It's like an ECW mindset, but with the money behind it to like put some polish on it and get it on a major network.
yeah,
And
it's got some flaws,
Sure.
but it is so far, and I know we'll transition
Yeah.
into WrestleMania, but it's so far ahead of the WWE right now. It's incredible. So I'm really excited for Forbidden Door.
Is that at Deer Can or
Yep.
Scotiabank Arena? So they got the big building.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
now.
I wondered if they might be over at the Marley's building or if they went.
Yeah,
with the
no,
big one.
they've already sold. It's almost sold out.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting kind of time right now. I don't know how much you have on it, but people are still talking about CM Punk. And
Got a lot.
I wonder how much do you think, and maybe you just disagree with me outright, and that's fine.
Can't wait.
Yeah. It feels like, I don't want to say AEW has cooled, but has maybe leveled off, like found its, I felt like in the early year or two of Dynamite, maybe it was the excitement of kind of like the Monday Night Wars where people were jumping mainly from WWE to AEW, but there was a little going the other way, mainly Cody, I guess. But there was the excitement. It was new, and there was a novelty to it, and there was new people coming in all the time, and you wondered what was going to happen. And frankly, it was just refreshing to have something else to watch. It felt like over the last few months, less novel, maybe, and maybe, like I said, maybe that's just settling in to being a little more normal. And I wonder if you think part of that is, regardless of what you think of him, the loss of a huge mainstream star like CM Punk.
I would agree.
Okay.
You're smarter than you look, so that's good.
Well, I would hope so.
Well, I wish. I wish a lot of people were smarter than they look. Eh, Graham? Bunda. I won't say that about Michaela and Vanessa.
No,
I can't say
we
that.
like them.
Well,
Usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Occasionally.
but I just can't say it about them, unfortunately.
Right.
But you're right. But finding a pocket is okay.
Sure.
Like, I enjoy their pocket better than I enjoy other federations' pockets.
Right.
So you're not wrong. But when you lose, there is nobody else, I don't think. Like, I'd love to hear somebody else tell me a name that's more polarizing in all of wrestling than CM Punk.
Right. You love that guy or you hate that guy. Nobody's just like, well, whatever.
Right. But the guy wrote a few paragraphs on Instagram, deleted it in a moment, and became the most talked about thing all week long.
Yep.
I just listened to Renee Paquette and John Moxley
Right.
on their.
The Oral Sessions podcast.
I just listened to that today to hear what they had to say, and I thought it was really interesting because John Moxley is a master of looking like he's, or sounding like he is completely disagreeing with everything that's going on while not actually saying it. So, yes, they've lost CM Punk. Do I believe that all of that happened? Yes. And there was a fight, obviously, and that, has created some bad blood. But what I also think is that they all know that CM Punk is best for business.
Mm-hmm.
I find it really, really hard to believe. I was actually talking about this on the podcast last night. It came out this afternoon. This is Wrestling, the podcast, by the way, that you're going to be on.
And tell people where to find it because it doesn't have its own feed. How do people get it?
Yeah, you can go on Spotify and Apple, and you can go to TSN 1200 on the podcast section. Find it on the TSN 1200 social media pages as well. So I'll throw this at you.
Okay.
So I'm expected to believe that the smartest people, Tony Khan and Chris Jericho and John Moxley, they all know exactly what they're doing all of the time. And what they do is on purpose. So did you watch AEW this week?
I haven't seen I got a PVR. I haven't seen this week's yet.
Like last Wednesday.
Sorry, yeah. What are we, Tuesday night?
Yeah. Last Wednesday?
I don't think I saw last Wednesday.
Oh, so you haven't seen Vikingo and Kenny Omega? Oh my God.
You got to get caught up.
One of the matches of the year.
Okay.
Incredible stuff. The fact that they gave it to us for free with no build-up.
What was that? Like, why not any, like...
Right. That was my point.
On free TV.
Zach's like, oh, well, just appreciate it. I'm like, I do appreciate it, but it was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
And even if you're going to put it on free TV, like, it better have a big 3, 4, 5 week build on free TV.
Just here you go. Here's an exhibition, and it's maybe the greatest thing you've ever heard or seen. But at the beginning of that show, the opening part of AEW this week was the Young Bucks got attacked by, we don't know.
Okay.
Carried off. You know, the cameras have just got there as they're on the stretcher loading into the ambulance. Well, they do
That's a classic whodunit.
Right. But they do it in front of the AEW production truck out back.
Okay.
Well, the AEW production truck has CM Punk's face on it. Well, what do? They cover it up with, like, you have a better tall can audio blanket here than the tables they use to cover up his face. Okay? And people are, like, there are certain people going, well, no, they covered up his face because they didn't want anybody to see.
Yeah, we could have shot this anywhere if we didn't want
Anywhere
people
else.
to see. Yeah.
Anyway, but we use this stupid table that barely covers the face of CM Punk, and it's like right in the middle of the shot.
Right.
Oh, yeah, like they did that by accident.
Right.
Come on, folks. So the word gets out there that, you know, they've done this. And then CM Punk writes his Instagram post and deletes it. And he calls Chris Jericho and Dave Meltzer and Tony Khan a liar and a stooge and everything else. So you want me to believe as a wrestling fan that Tony Khan and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Adam Page and everybody involved with the opening segment where they got attacked and we don't know who attacked them, but they covered up CM Punk's face in the middle of your television screen. You want, like, we're bright enough to figure out that they know what they're doing so that they can get the message out about CM Punk, and they did that all on purpose, right?
Yeah.
The first time you will watch it, you'll go, you know what? This was done on purpose.
Right.
Because you're a smart guy.
Right.
Doesn't even take a smart person to figure this out.
Even Creech could figure it out.
Thank you. So people do things in wrestling on purpose, and they do it all the time. It's like Gary Bettman. It's the same thing. Gary Bettman's end goal is to make the most money he possibly can.
What's best for business.
Right. So in wrestling, let's start with the attitude. The framework of where we begin from is it's a work.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we find out it's actually real, fine. But let's start with the fact that it's a work.
Yeah, that should be your resting heart rate. I'm being worked right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when CM Punk writes an Instagram thing for two, oh, that hothead, I can't believe what he... And everyone believes it.
And it comes in the same week as...
It came out the next day.
Yeah, we're clearly doing something here.
You want me to believe that everyone else is so smart, but that stupid hothead, CM Punk, just can't... And everyone believes that his Instagram post is real. I don't.
Right. It's especially knowing Punk, like in the number of times we've seen him lash out and things like that. If that's what he felt, he would leave it up. The delete is supposed to build to... It's part of this, right? Like, oh, see, look, he's taking it down and, I guess he had a second thought or his lawyers were... No, it's a good part of the story, right? Who hasn't had a friend post something on social media and delete it later, either after sobering up or whatever? This is part of the story, right? I wasn't sure after All Out and for the couple months leading, I don't know. He's hurt. We'll see. Maybe they'll bring him back. Maybe they'll cut him loose. Mm-hmm. The last week or so, you kind of go, I see what you're doing here.
Right.
The post was part of that. What you've just laid out there from the TV show was part of that. Like we're doing something here, right?
And can we
good for
stop
business.
blaming CM Punk for all of this? Like, did they get in a fight? Yeah.
Sounds like it.
I believe they did get into a fight.
Yeah.
Do you know who else got in the fight? And you know who else
100 people
took
over the
Yeah, no, but do you know who else took it upon themselves to walk into Punk's dressing room and get in a fight, a physical altercation? Oh, the executive vice presidents, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
They all did this.
Right.
So everyone is at fault. Is CM Punk at fault? Yes. But are other people at fault? Yes.
100%. So
does CM Punk
see if we can make some money
does CM
off it.
Punk work for AEW right now? Is he under contract?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Well,
Isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's start there.
Yeah.
He hasn't been fired. How come? If he was actually in a physical altercation, that they blamed him and could prove the fact that he was in the physical altercation and provoke this. Okay. So he's still
there.
Still there.
Yeah.
John
Still
Moxley,
under
who admitted today that one of the things he did was he was the AEW World Champion.
Yeah.
And he walked into Minneapolis and he didn't have a contract. Didn't have a contract because he was coming off from, rehab and didn't want to sign a long-term contract till he knew that he would be okay on the road and doing some other things with his life, and good for him. But he didn't have a
he'd been
contract.
through some personal issues.
Said today that he could take the AEW title and walk into SummerSlam. He said he went to the SummerSlam show. Okay? Could have taken the AEW title and walked on TV
right out on
because he did
television.
not have a contract.
Right.
So when he's claiming that CM Punk didn't want to, or CM Punk said that John Moxley didn't want to lose to him and everything else, he had this great story today about, I didn't have a contract. I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
So that's actually facts. But come on.
Do you worry? Like I worry, even talking to our audience right now, is this over some people's heads who are more casual wrestling fans, right?
Yep.
Does CM Punk talking about Moxley not wanting to lose to him, is that a good way to build a, like you've now, it's very Vince Russo almost, right? That you don't want to be building a storyline that sort of takes you out of it and says, this guy refused to lose to me, but we're supposed to believe this is a real fight when you're watching the TV show, right? Like, that's the part where they lose me a little. Like, I get it. Maybe it's just for your hardcore fans. But that's not something you can really run out on television.
Right. And so I totally agree with you on exactly what you're talking about. But at the same time, the casual fan will come back if CM Punk comes back.
Yeah, that's your.
And the hardcore fan needs a reason to be super interested and to tell the casual fan, no, these guys really hate each other. They are really fighting.
Let the hardcores help you build the casuals. Yeah.
Yes. And so if you look at, the Instagram post right now of Renee Paquette talking to her husband, John Moxley, by the way, and I watched Renee Young when she was on The Score.
Yeah.
And even before that on Byte TV when she was talking wrestling. Good for her. What a life. The first thing that
I always thought that was stupidly when Renee was hosting the show on The Score after Raw that they called Right After Wrestling. I was like, that's weirdly clever. I like that. Like it's not super clever, but it's like right in my wheel.
Yeah,
like
of
I
course.
like that. That's fun.
So the first thing that they have up on the Instagram page about, and he's talking about the Adam Page Texas Death Match.
Right.
But what you read on it and what you hear John Moxley say is, I love the feeling of like making people where they're genuinely shocked. And sometimes people go out there, they have a great match and the crowd loves it. And they're there with the chants and they're there with the booing and the yang and the cheering and all the right times. And the fans are going along for the ride, but it's almost predictable. I love genuinely shocking people.
Well, there you go.
Now he's talking about Adam Page.
Sure.
But is he?
But is he? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I like it.
So as a hardcore wrestling fan, I'm in. I think they need CM Punk to drive that number up and above
weekly ratings.
Up and above where they are. As you said, the pocket.
Yeah.
I think they've settled into a pocket. I think it's a good pocket to be in. And it's a pocket that can get them some things, but to get to the next level, how many people other than CM Punk are going to be able to do that for them? I don't know the answer, but right now it sounds like they need CM Punk just as much as CM Punk needs back in all of this. I don't know if this is a total work. I think this is, I guess, a work.
You shoot yourself into a work.
Yeah, it's a work off of a shoot.
Yeah.
Hey, this happened. I think they're
How do we get out of it?
I think they're smart enough to have all gotten into a room together and say, how can we make some money off of what actually happened? And let's be professional about this. What do you think about the Man-Child beer now that you've had like 4, 5, 6 sips of the peanut butter and jelly?
Like I said, it's more tart than I would have expected, but I really liked it. It's
very unique.
It really is. And I almost, like I said earlier, when you see peanut butter on something, you expect almost like a Reese's kind of flavor to it. Or this isn't that. It's like peanut butter and almost fruity. And I guess that's the jam, right? That they're talking. It's peanut butter jam.
Look at you putting that together. Hey. But
big brain over here, man.
Like I said, if this was not as sour, it would be like a 10.
Right.
For me.
Okay.
It's probably an 8.5.
Yeah.
And
that's with the neighborhood.
And the second best beer I've ever had, like a 9.5, 9.8, was the peanut butter and jam beer I got in Savannah. That was a lager.
Right.
That had, I said to I'm one of those people that the girl goes, oh, you'll like this. I'm like, come on.
You're one of those.
Does it really taste like peanut butter? And she gives me the, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I'll go get you a taster. And when I tasted it, she said, it'll tell me it doesn't taste exactly like peanut butter and jam toast.
Yeah.
And I tasted it, and it tasted exactly like, so it tasted like this beer, except with a kind of sweeter jam finish and not the sour part.
Okay.
At the end, on the back end.
I'm intrigued by that too, man.
Yeah. It's called Lunch Bag, and I can't find it again. But before we get to WrestleMania here.
Yeah.
Let's dig into this one. So this one is my go-to. I'm a big, and it's not for everyone, but I'm a big Perth Brewery fan. And I like it because they have bold flavors.
Yep.
And if you've ever had a Perth Maple.
Certainly have. It's a stop for me heading down to the family cottage. It shares a parking lot with a Wendy's.
It does.
So heading out of town, grab a little lunch, grab a couple of beers, and get back on the highway.
Right. Perth Maple, it's very mapley.
Yeah.
But I love it. It's not for everyone, but I love it.
It is one I enjoy quite a bit too. They
So-
have it's called the Bonfire.
Yep.
That's one of my, it's a go-to when I see it around. I like that one.
At Christmas time, they have one. It's called Pistachio,
Yep.
but it tastes like amaretto. It's
I haven't tried that.
Probably the best way
Okay.
I would describe that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't want to try it because although I like pistachios, it was like, I don't know if I'd like a pistachio beer.
Right.
But the one we're drinking now is just a honey lager.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds simple,
Yep.
but taste it and at least tell me what you think, because I wouldn't, because we do a lot of honey browns in the world, and the back end of this one is a little bit sweeter than some of
I
those.
was just going to say, because you get the honey right up front, but there is something trailing behind it. And I wondered if I was being influenced by the tart from the last one still on my tongue, maybe. But there's something
You've
that
been
kind of
influenced already.
Yeah, 100%. There's something that trails off behind this one that's quite nice.
So this one is a beer that Perth does that they only put out in their brewery because the honey and I'm not as familiar with the pasteurization process, but that process of the honey being in the beer and their local honey, they can only refrigerate it at a certain temperature. So they don't put it in LCBOs. They don't put it in your grocery stores. You have to go to the brewery to get it.
Right.
And
we've had Andy from the Need a Beer Company on here a few times talk about that he does, they're the ones who front every year the local craft beer advent calendar.
yes, love it.
And he says that some of the breweries are like, we don't want to put this one forward because we know at some point this is going to go sit in a garage somewhere or in a back room somewhere, and you can't trust the distribution process to keep the beer where it needs to be.
Which is incredible that you could grow a business to me that the beer store or the LCBO would come calling and you'd go,
No,
eh. I can give you these other ones,
Yeah,
but
but not this one.
Can't give you this one.
Right.
Because we can't be sure that you'll store it
You'll
properly.
treat it properly. What do you guys know about beer?
But we want like thousands and thousands of cans.
Nah.
Great place
This
to be,
isn't for
right?
you. Yeah, for sure, man.
So it's not like, oh my God, stop you in your tracks beer. But to me, it's a perfect blend of this is one I could have 6 of in a night.
I was just going to say, that last one we had, I really enjoyed it, but that's not a sit and drink all day kind of beer. This one...
It's like a dessert beer,
That's
really.
right,
It's like a last beer of the night beer. And I think that's okay to have beers like that.
This one, you could sit and see yourself putting away a 6-pack or a 12-pack or whatever your afternoon and evening is going to look like.
And so this is kind of my go-to. If I had one to pick, it would be this one. Just sweet enough, just kind of crisp enough to do something for me without being overpowering. So
I want to talk to you about this weekend's WrestleMania. It's 2 nights again. WrestleMania goes Hollywood. The 2005 commercials were better than this year's commercials. I do enjoy some of this year's commercials, but the spoofs on the movies and stuff were so much fun in 2005. All the different ones they used to run out there.
You're not wrong.
No. But it's an interesting card. It's going to be 2 nights. You talked about this beer not being overpowering. One of the things I wonder about with this card is it looks to me, and maybe it's just my fading interest, I don't know, but that they've built a really overpowering top 2 matches, both of them involving the Bloodline, and then everything else is just sort of
there,
I guess, right? Like, this will be fine. There's a lot on this card that doesn't feel like WrestleMania. And some of that is leaning less on bringing back, old stars and celebrities and stuff. But some of it is just maybe bad storytelling. I think a lot of people got really excited last summer when Vince McMahon was, I was going to say stepped away, but maybe asked to step away, forced to step away, that maybe Triple H would bring some of that NXT magic and turn the booking around. I do think the show's been better, but here we are at WrestleMania, and it just doesn't feel as big as some previous editions. Where are you at on this year's card, and just the difference between maybe those top 2 Bloodline matches and then everything else that's being offered up?
You do remember at the beginning of the program when I said we're going to be fast friends?
Yeah.
You and I?
Yeah.
We're still going to be fast
Okay,
friends.
all right.
Because I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And I actually went on a soliloquy of sorts on the latest edition of This Is Wrestling because of the fact that what you just said is completely accurate to me. I'm really not interested in almost anything else they're offering other than the 2 matches with the Bloodline.
Right.
But is the Bloodline the main event of Saturday?
Doesn't sound like it.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Is it because they're women and because the women haven't main evented over the last 2 years?
Right.
Is it because of Charlotte Flair's name and Ric Flair's influence and Vince McMahon and pushing her as a star that they want to just get out there and tell people that she's a star so that they can tell ESPN on Saturday night and Sunday morning as
Look
they're
at us,
promoting.
we had another woman main event.
Yeah, but like Charlotte Flair, here's the name.
Yep.
She was in our main event. As
With
we
Ronda
are
Rousey
almost
a couple years
promoting
back.
Sunday WrestleMania, we'll come off the Saturday night and we'll push Charlotte Flair.
Right.
I said on the podcast, and I'll say it here with you, one of the great things that's happened in wrestling was the fact that Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair main evented a WrestleMania because they deserved it.
It was the best story that year.
They deserved it.
Yeah.
They worked their asses off.
Yep.
And they were the most interesting people on that show every single week.
100%, man.
And they deserve to be there. Now, I actually would go to bat for them even more, saying that main event went on at
That sucked. It was like midnight.
12:30 or whatever time it was. And
7 hours into a show.
just ridiculous, and didn't give them the opportunity to do what they do best, and they waited around all day long.
Yeah. Crowd was dead. They'd
But
been there all
in
day.
saying that, like, we're at a point now, this is my belief, we're at a point now where, for me, I don't care whether you're a man or a woman. I think it's your job to go out, and if you don't put asses in seats and you don't hook me to want to watch you, then you don't deserve to be in the main event. And
that's equality.
right.
You have just as good a shot to main event, but if you stink, you still stink, right? And they don't stink. This story stinks, right? Like,
No, but here's the thing. You're a wrestling fan.
yeah,
Okay?
it's true.
Charlotte Flair is an incredible athlete.
100%.
Might be the worst baby face in the history
That's
of the
what I'm saying.
planet.
Yeah. As a heel, great.
Incredible.
Yeah. Rhea Ripley is terrific, but this match, like this pairing at this time in this story, it's not working. It
It's
hasn't clicked at all.
It's like Bayley. Bayley, I don't even understand this because it's so much easier to be a heel in this day and age than it is to be a baby face to be over. Bayley was over as a baby face, and that's what she's good at.
Yep.
They're trying to make her into a heel, and it's embarrassing.
Right.
Stop. You have a really, really talented woman.
Yep.
Make her a babyface because that's what she's good at. Guess what? Charlotte Flair is a natural heel. That's what she's good at.
Yeah.
Put them in there.
Lean into it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Let them thrive in these places that they can't. They're forcing a babyface Charlotte Flair against Rhea Ripley in the main event, and they don't deserve to be there. It doesn't mean like they have no chance to deserve to be there. Of course they do.
Right. It's just not that interesting of a story that they're telling. That people are miscast.
Come at me and tell me that the Rhea Ripley Charlotte Flair storyline is better than Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Usos for the tag team championship.
Right.
They have sunk everything into this. You just talked about it. The bloodline. It's what people care about. I actually am very, very down on the WWE right now, but I do care about the Usos.
Yeah, they've
bloodline,
told a great story for the last.
Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens storyline.
Yep.
I care about it a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not going to main event? Come on. So let me ask you a question that
man.
we'll get into the main event here, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're going to go with Cody Rhodes. And I mean, I only wear champion t-shirts here. So I believe they're going to go with Cody, and they're going to go with the baby face, like the true baby face, and working every week on TV like Roman doesn't, like Brock didn't.
Right.
Like they haven't had a champion kind of work that way in a long time. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to go with it for a while. But when is the last true babyface, in your expert wrestling opinion, that has thrived, that can go for a while and be a true babyface and be a champion that can survive more than 6 months? And don't come at me with John Cena. Please don't.
Well, he was booked as a true baby
No.
face.
Again, don't come at me with John Cena because
that wasn't
you don't,
going to be my
because
answer.
you don't
It's
believe
the
it.
one that you
Okay.
pushed it.
All right.
He was booked as one.
I
He was never
apologize.
reacted to as one.
Okay, so who is the last one, in your opinion, that a babyface champion that was completely over and that worked in that spot
For a long.
for I'll call it a decent amount of time. You
Yeah.
can call it what you want.
Yeah. They gave it a shot in 2004 with Benoit, but he only got as far as SummerSlam. Because remember, he kept being booked underneath with Eugene and all kinds of crazy shit there. But I mean, even if that's my starting point, we're going back 19 years.
Right.
It hasn't worked. And this sounds ridiculous to say because it was like the most successful time in company history.
Hogan.
But I was going to say Stone Cold ruined that. Stone Cold is a heel, right? Like in his, but he was so cool, right? He was fun to watch. He was the everyman beating the shit out of his boss every week and whatever. But those were heel tactics that people just loved as culture kind of turned a bit.
Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't count that, and I mean, I guess you would. He was clearly a babyface, but Brett?
Yeah, you have the hat on. Yeah.
Yeah.
My point is,
I know your point. Yeah,
I worry now. You're talking about 30 years ago.
I am.
And
I do that a lot. I'm getting pretty old.
yeah, no, but there hasn't been one. And I think that's the point.
Yeah.
That I worry. I think Cody's going to go over at WrestleMania, but I do worry a great deal about what the next 6 months to a year could be if he's the working man, Dusty Rhodes-esque champion. And he's going to
good looking, straight baby.
He's going to do this for his father and everything else. Son of a plumber.
I could stand to hear less about that.
Yeah, I could too.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's going to work. Now, I think Cody's got some heel in him.
Yeah.
And he's worked well. So he still comes out in the suit and he's a little arrogant and he's got some traits of a heel for sure that he could go to that point at any time. But my worry is that they're going to try to go to this babyface on TV every week character.
And they also don't have the heel roster to make that last.
So here's my next question.
Okay.
Let's pontificate that and predict that Cody...
Love a good pontification.
Right? But 2 more syllables than I'm usually used to. But yeah. Let's go with that and go, okay, Cody is going to be your champion. Mm-hmm. Who do you think can be not just like an opponent and like somebody to work with, but like a true
foil? Like long term,
right.
This is the guy that
like this guy could not only beat Cody and he could win the title.
Yeah.
But I would be, when that guy comes out, I would believe that he can beat Cody.
So coming out of this through April, May, June, there's nobody. The next couple of main events are going to stink. You're going to know Cody's going to roll right over them. You have to hard rehabilitate Braun or Brock Lesnar or like a monster that, but none of those guys are set up right now to do. Bobby Lashley, maybe? Could you turn him heel fast enough and for 2-3 months he ruins people? Like for the next couple months, I think they're in trouble. You're going to have to do, maybe, I don't even know are they back to calling it Backlash, the one after WrestleMania?
Oh, I hope they're not calling it WrestleMania Rewind.
No, my God.
Before.
So could you do there for a month to buy time, Cody and Sami and KO versus the Usos and Solo or something? You need time to build a monster. They don't have it right now.
So who's your guy? Who's the first guy that you would believe that could beat Cody?
Out at like SummerSlam or in like April?
Doesn't matter. No, not April. No.
Yeah.
I'm talking like SummerSlam would even be early for me. Like I'm talking about Rumble. I'm talking about next year at WrestleMania. I'm talking about the first person to come along that you would truly believe, man, that guy could win the title. That guy could beat Cody. That guy could carry the company after Cody.
Oh, that last one throws me off because I don't think they'll stick around long. But yeah, it's Brock or it's Bobby or something like that. But you need to give them time to ruin people.
So like, listen to me again and how good of friends we are going to be. So I asked this question to Zach McGibbon. I asked this question to Tanner Ryle, who joins us sometimes on the podcast. Tanner worked at Bell Media, but he is a regular at C4. Goes to every local show.
Right.
So we have him on sometimes after the C4 shows. I asked both of them. My answer was the same as yours. Could you please just make Brock Lesnar not an embarrassing baby face that's facing almost that I just don't even want to watch on my television? Because I used to want to watch that guy and like I believed him.
Right.
I believed him when he came out with Paul Heyman and he's the champion and he does what he wants when he wants and he's a monster. I believe that guy. Make him into that monster and then put him against Cody.
Yeah. And it's
like, at least believable.
For sure.
Okay. Their answers were this. And I'll run them by you.
Sure.
One of them, I won't tell you which one, said that Jey Uso was going to be the guy and that Jey Uso could possibly even beat Cody where he doesn't help Roman Can I at least explain the situation to you? He has a chance to help Roman at WrestleMania. He doesn't. He then goes on at some point to win the title, and that's when Roman comes back.
See, the underlying story, I don't mind. That there's a lot of tension there, right, between Jay and Roman. I don't hate the idea that Jay might be able to do something in the main event, but chooses not to, and that maybe he does kill some time with Cody, but I don't believe he's beating Cody.
Okay. So the other one...
But I got time for that story.
The other one is a guy that Cody was tied up with a long time ago and is also a generational...
Oh, Randy, yeah.
In Randy Orton.
Yeah. That could be fun. I don't know that I'm putting my title back on Randy.
I agree with that. That's why I chose Brock. That could be a fun
story for 2 months or so.
I chose Brock because I could put the title on Brock.
Yeah.
If he was a monster back where he was.
But if you want to give Cody a run, he needs some guys, right? I could do Jay for a month or two. I could do Randy for another month or two after that. And now you're telling some interesting stories. They could be decent, but I don't, even as like a smart mark, right? We'll go into that show going, I wonder what they're going to do tonight. No, Cody's going over, and that's a problem.
Yep, I agree.
What's lined up for him?
You know what? They jumped the shark with Roman Reigns because they didn't. When Sami was as hot as he was, going into Montreal, I would have put the title on him in Montreal, and I would have taken it off of him the next week. But they missed their opportunity, and Sami will never be that hot again.
No, he won't. But don't you feel like that? That sort of throws the Roman Cody story. Like, I got my title back. Instead of having it for 900 days, I've had it for 5 weeks.
No, because I don't. Once it got past about 400 or 500, I don't care what the number was for Roman. I'm bored.
I didn't feel that way. There were nights along the way where I thought,
how many?
I was just I thought they could do it and didn't. And then in the moment, I was frustrated. But as the story okay, which one you got?
Which one you got?
Oh, I'm just thinking, like, you could have done...
Drew McIntyre, you could have done in Wales.
You could have done that in Wales. That would have been a cool moment.
Yeah, could have done that.
Yeah. And by then, he was already, 800 days in? Whatever, something like that.
Yeah, whatever he was, yeah.
Beyond that, there hasn't been a whole... I didn't like the finish against Danielson and Edge, where he stacked them up and pinned them both. And in hindsight, knowing Danielson was going to leave, you go, all right, well, whatever. But
for Edge,
really buried.
Edge has been dead.
Both of those guys.
Edge has been dead since.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there.
I didn't love that finish. I didn't need one of those two guys to go over, but that was a pretty hard burial of both of those guys at the same time.
I agree.
Yeah. So I thought once they got that far, my mind was open to it in Montreal. Like, maybe they'll do it. That promo on SmackDown on the Friday night made me go, they're going to have a meeting tomorrow. That was incredible.
Right.
But what happened in Montreal, could you be confident would happen again for Sami the next week in Des Moines or in Cleveland or, like, I don't know, right? Like, but you're saying you would have put it on him the next week anyway, or switched it back. So I guess
I would
have
have switched it back right away.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I don't hate what they've done. It's
Sami
very
would have
80s,
never been
right?
as hot as he was that Sunday night.
Like Hunter
never
likes to think of himself as that Ric Flair era kind of guy, right? And so you have that long-serving champion like, I don't know, like Bruno back in the day or whatever. So I don't hate this, but it does make me wonder now as we bring it back to this weekend, it would be the ultimate, I was going to say fuck you, but just to put Roman over one, even if you were going to do Roman Cody again a month later, just that one last shot at Mania in front of your biggest audience. No, this is our guy. This is our heel guy. We told this story. It would cut Cody's legs off, but if you are trying to make Roman one of these all-time greats, having him beat Cody in the main event after the whole thing has been for a year, I have to finish my story. And Roman goes, fuck your story. I'm the man here.
I don't hate it.
No.
But as long as it was leading to...
You got to do something really quick after. And by all accounts, Roman's leaving, right? Like, couldn't take some time off.
If you did something after, I would feel like it's a bit of a waste.
Yeah.
With the lead up. And then I would also need The Rock and Roman next year.
Well,
And it would
if
need
they
that-
didn't do it this year, it doesn't sound like it's.
I
Gonna
know,
happen,
but
right?
I'm saying if Roman's going to go over, I would need that.
Oh, so you'd have Roman hold it for another year.
Yeah. Of course I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, who's beating him? If Cody's not beating him,
Yep.
if you're going to tell me that Roman's going to go over, and I'm going to work off Roman pins Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, and I'm starting from there, I'm not letting somebody else.
So then
come
what
in
happens
now.
in a year? The Rock wins it. He's not holding it long term, so you have him beat Roman, and a month later drops it to whoever. Like that
No,
seems,
I think
you can't have the Rock
I think-
either. Like you can't have the Rock win. I mean,
no, 100%. You could have The Rock and Roman.
yes, but Roman has to win again.
Well, if Roman lost, I wish they did that this year.
Yeah.
That Roman fought Cody and lost on Saturday, and still had The Rock and Roman on Sunday.
Yeah,
I would do that next year.
that's interesting too. But I do wonder if the crowd starts to revolt. Now he's a heel. I guess you can
For
have
sure.
them
But tell
revolt,
me if Cody wins, we're going to get Gunther?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, Gunther
It'll
might
be
be
a
the
fun
most
match,
likable. Yeah, most likable heel in the world.
Yeah.
Who-
you risk
Who hates Gunther?
right? You risk turning Cody against Gunther, in my opinion.
Well,
right?
you
Like, people
risk-
will cheer
Well,
against him.
Cody is John Cena, just 10, 15 years
People
later.
haven't soured on him yet. I
Yeah, but
gotta tell you,
in AEW, they did.
yes,
They started booing
it's a
him.
smarter fan base.
This fan base won't be far behind.
No, they'll get
So-
there, but they haven't yet.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, with the Cody story, I've enjoyed watching it, and I think I like Cody, but I don't know what he's done that is still warranting the reactions he's getting. Like, what the fan base thinks of him right now is so much more than what I think of him right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that's going to break, right? At some point they will get it. Like, he's the cool new guy who came back, and so we're behind him. But some of these promos lately have just been a little underwhelming.
I agree.
I don't dislike him, and I'll be fine if they put the belt on him.
The build's been not as good as it should have been.
Right. There's a disconnect, in my opinion, between the reactions he's still getting.
But if
and
you
what he's
turn him
putting out.
heel now,
yeah,
what are you going to do?
yeah, I don't
You
know.
can't
That,
turn him back.
I don't know that the
You're not ready.
baby face lineup that
No.
he would run up against
You're-
any better than
Yeah, you're not ready to turn him heel yet.
no.
So you got to roll with this.
Yep.
You have to.
Outside of the main event and the tag title match, like we said, it's slightly underwhelming. But what do you have your eye on that could surprise you? That could make me go, "Yeah, you know what? That might turn out to be better than I expected, or this could surprise."
Well, it's tough to go away from Gunther, right?
Yeah.
Like Gunther and Drew McIntyre and Sheamus have, I think, an incredible platform to go out and show people that they can get back on top.
Right.
That, well, I don't
Drew,
think,
especially. I feel
well, I
like they
don't
gotta
think
get
the
him going
WWE
again.
does a very good job at all. They bury their people instead of letting them be who they are and letting them be superstars.
Yeah.
They buried Drew when he lost in Wales, and he's
And then had him sing a song.
Yeah.
That was weird.
and Sheamus is like, he's a very believable character. Like, he's an ass kicker.
Yeah.
Right? And he looks like an ass kicker. So Gunther has been on a run where I don't even know why he's a heel, because everyone loves him. Like, every wrestling
Yeah.
person that I ever talked to is like, yeah, that guy's awesome. Right? So I think the three of them could go out there and do something fairly special. But the rest of the card,
It's thin, man.
oh my God.
It's thin for a SummerSlam, let alone a.
No, the rest of the card's going to be very difficult for me to get through. And I think,
I think they've tried really hard with
don't
the
think
Dom Ray story.
no, if I never see Dominic Mysterio again in my life.
See, he's got the go away heat for you, and not the.
Right.
I
No,
I kind of I find
Matt.
his shtick funny, where he's like, I've been in the slammer or whatever. Like,
no, he's the least believable
He is.
character.
No,
and he's almost so,
and Ray's got to be 50 at this point.
yeah,
Like,
but he's so unbelievably bad at his job. Sometimes it's comical.
talking about his mommy.
Yeah, but like sometimes it's comical.
Yeah, when it's not supposed to be.
Right. But I'm not looking forward to that.
I'm not saying I'm looking forward to it. I'm saying they tried hard to make this a thing, like this epic father-son. And all those stories say to me is, oh, one guy's really fucking old, right? Like,
But I'd like to just say that the one character I think that they've buried more than any that I think's really, really good, I feel bad for her, is Bianca Belair.
yeah.
I feel bad.
Yeah, she's coming in with no momentum.
They buried her with Becky Lynch coming back.
Yeah.
And she's never recovered.
Yeah.
I don't care how long she's had the belt. I don't care what they've done. I should be looking forward to a Bianca Belair WrestleMania match
with
Asuka.
Yeah. Who they also took the shine off pretty easily as well.
Right.
At some point.
So I should be looking forward to that match. And they've done everything they can do to make me not interested in that match.
Well, and again, the women's title match that's going to main event Saturday, if roles were reversed, if they'd found a way to turn Rhea even quasi face, I really like Rhea as a performer, but this match does nothing. Like, I assume the work will be good, but the story.
Okay, and so this is the most insulting thing that you can say that really bothers me about the WWE and the way they treat their fans. We want you to ignore every storyline that we've ever told you. But when Edge and Finn Balor fight, you're going to watch because you're interested, because back in the day, you respected Edge and you respected Finn Balor.
Yeah.
And so you know with their work ethic, they're going to go and do something that might surprise you.
Yeah.
But ignore everything that we've done to lead up to it.
Right.
Ignore everything.
Just watch the match for the sake of the match.
Right.
And forget why you're supposed to care.
Yes. And that sentiment has been told to WWE fans more than anything. I'm insulted by it as a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm a wrestling fan.
That's it, eh?
So I want to watch Edge and Finn Balor fight.
Yeah.
Regardless of what storyline they've told me and how bad it is of a lead up, I want to watch them fight.
Yeah, there's been so many of those stories over the years, right? Where you're just like, you have insulted me with this shit you've tried to slide by.
But your respect for Finn Balor, your respect for Edge will get us through our bad television and bad storytelling.
Yeah.
So I think,
but even with that in mind, this is as weak of a WrestleMania card as I can remember in several, and that includes the one they had to hold behind closed doors because COVID had just set in.
No, I'm going to let you watch the Edge Randy Orton wrestle around a room
gymnasium
for 45 minutes. I'll let you watch that again and then tell me how bad it was. Or watching Brock Lesnar lose the title or win the title. What did he do?
On that one, he was against
Drew.
Yeah, and Drew kicked his head off.
But it was just F5, kick, F5, kick, kick, F5, 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 kick, done.
Same as the other one. If you remember, the other title match was Braun versus Goldberg, and it was like...
Okay, you're not allowed to bring up Goldberg with me. You're just not allowed to.
Even when it was Braun squashing him like that?
Don't care.
He might be your next boy into AEW.
No, he won't be, or else I won't be watching AEW.
Punk versus Goldberg at the next... AEW pay-per-view.
No.
At Forbidden Door. That's going to be your main event. You'll find the forbidden exit door.
Why are you trying to ruin all of this? I've had so much fun.
Yeah.
No. Goldberg is probably my least favorite.
You see a couple of months ago or whatever it was he said, like, they owe me a retirement. Motherfucker, they owe their fan base less
money back.
Yeah, exactly.
To watch you wrestle for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to be a wrestling fan when he comes out of my screen. And as a guy who will still point back to 1998 in the Georgia Dome when Goldberg beat Hogan for the title.
Yep. On 4 days promotion.
Yeah. Again. But for the reaction that match got for 40,000 people in that place.
He was over.
They went ballistic.
100%, man.
And
the last great gasp for WCW.
But again, this is another one of my issues with the world of professional wrestling. As you continue to trigger me. No, but you continue, and you're very good at this. That's why you do this podcast, Matt. You're triggering me into I think wrestling companies as a whole have a very difficult time once people become champion, as opposed to the chase to be the champion. I actually think they're running into a little bit of it with MJF. He had a fantastic Iron Man match with Bryan Danielson. It was incredible. I give him a lot of props. But the heat off of him since he's become champion, Goldberg's another example. There's lots of examples of the chase is a lot better than when they actually get there. And it's why I have so much respect and will still tell people that Ric Flair was the greatest wrestler of all time, because when he was going out and wrestling 45 and 60-minute matches, it never got old when he was on top.
Yeah.
He was the guy that, as the champion...
16 titles means you lost it 16 times. So he got to do the chase again, right? And he got to then play the heel.
He did some good business with Kerry Von Erich.
Sure.
Right? Losing in Texas in front of 45,000 people.
You knew when it was the time to do it.
Yes.
Right?
And this is my point with Sami and Roman. Back to it. Okay?
Yeah.
So Ric Flair knew, I'm going to lose in Texas Stadium to Kerry Von Erich in front of 45,000 people, and the place is going to go ape shit. I'll beat him in Japan next week.
But he didn't have his biggest show of the year 5 weeks later to worry about. Like, that was a big... I get what you're saying, and it did, for the first time in a very long time,
he's been the champion for 800 days.
Right.
Who cares about the next big show? He'll be okay.
It's their biggest show.
You're just telling me how bad the show is.
Yes. And without this, it's even worse.
No. If Sami Zayn won the world title
and then
lost it,
forced a triple threat, or
no, but lost it back, and it was still in the exact same scenario that he was. Eventually, you can put Sami back into the title picture as a reputable person because he's beat Roman.
He was never going to beat Roman clean. Roman was going to get fucked somehow if they did it. But I will admit, that is the first time in a long time I went in and go, I wonder if they do it here. And to me, as one of those guys who's watching almost as much for the behind the scene, like as interested in the story they're trying to tell as the show that they're actually presenting me, that's the first time in a very long time where I went, I don't know what they're going to do here. And to me, that's worth something too.
Ricky Steamboat fought Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3.
Sure did.
In the most choreographed, but one of the best matches we've ever seen.
Yep.
Do you know how long it took him to lose the title after he beat Randy Savage, after a year and a half of getting the bell in his throat and the chase and George the Animal Steel and the incredible match they had at WrestleMania 3?
Yeah, didn't he ask Vince for some time off so his wife could have a baby? And Vince was like, well, I'll just fuck you, and jobbed him out. And it wasn't long.
It was about a month and a half.
Yeah.
When he lost it in Buffalo, New York to the Honky Tonk Man.
That's the worst. Buffalo's the most insulting part of that. Why do I have to lose in Buffalo?
The actual way he lost it in some weird little, like it looked like his shoulders were down, but they weren't really, and the ref counted fast. My point is a year build-up lasted about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Once he got the title.
I don't think that was the plan, though.
Well, the Honky Tonk Man held the title for how long?
Yeah, a long time.
Long time.
The Honky Meter. Maybe my favorite Santino Marella.
I agree.
Weirdly funny.
He was so underrated, the Honky Tonk Man. But the point is that
Snoopy the dog.
It's okay
to pull the trigger.
To pull the trigger, and Ric Flair to me is the ultimate example of when it was time to pull the trigger and lose to Kerry Von Erich or lose to Ronnie Garvin or lose to whoever else along Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
And have 3 epic matches and win at the end of it.
So you don't think Cody's moment is, if they're going to do that, is diminished by the fact that Roman just lost 5 weeks ago? Who the hell cares that he's losing again now?
Nope.
To me, it does. I'm just like, oh, well, somebody else already did it, man. Sorry.
Everything you know about Cody is it's about his journey.
Yeah.
It's about his run. It's about his destiny.
Yeah. Well,
you need him to be the guy that's held the title for 800 days, or
to me at that point, Roman's just Bob Backlund in '94. Oh, just gets kicked in the stomach
because he loses to the hottest guy in the world and then beats him 5 days later. Suddenly he's Bob Backlund
again a few weeks later, and you're just like, all right, you're just a guy now.
Stop.
If you're going to take the shine off him, let Cody take... If Sami's not your guy, then don't give that moment to him.
But my problem is you don't have any guys.
Right. You're not going to create two out of this. So
why not?
Pick one. Because you, to me, Roman is now
Sami?
just a...
Why couldn't you create Sami
and then bury
create Cody?
Sami? And
Bury
then,
him? What do you mean bury him?
Well, obviously Roman's going to come back and pin him clean afterwards, going to Mania.
Well, it wouldn't be clean, but whatever.
Probably got to be clean.
It wouldn't be clean.
Okay. And then we're going to just do it again.
Right.
Try and recreate the same thing. In their minds, the story they're telling is the fact that it's been 800 days or 900 days or whatever it's been. Someone's going to get to knock him off. We want it to be Cody.
So you told me the WWE, you like their product?
Eh.
Right.
I don't hate it. I don't love it.
Yeah, neither do I.
I go in and out on it. I have phases. Right?
Same with me.
Yeah.
So now we are suddenly to put all of our faith in their story.
I'm just saying this is the story they're telling.
That doesn't mean it's good.
I didn't say it was
Okay,
good.
so change it. Change it. Make new stars.
I just think now...
Sami Zayn was as popular a guy as you've had in a very long time. The only thing I can even...
That pop at the Rumble with the chair shot
insane.
on Rumble. Maybe as loud as any.
And Kevin Owens has similar big pops.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can even compare it to is Drew McIntyre in Wales.
Yep. But again,
pull the
that
trigger.
one was different, even harder than Sami, because Drew's going to come back from Wales, and now we're, like I said, we're in Kansas City or St. Louis or whatever. Do people react in those cities to Drew the same way they do in Wales? Probably not, right? That was a one-time moment. You create a pop, and now you're just left having to...
I don't disagree with taking the title off of Drew right after that.
Okay. So you're just ready to flip-flop the belts all over the place.
No, it's not flip-flopping. Ric Flair was the greatest champion of all time.
But he was going territory to territory, like in modern day TV show to TV show.
But he lost the belt more than anyone else in the history.
Yep.
And he's still the great. And he's still the greatest champion of all time.
Ric Flair. So.
Okay, but he's still the greatest champion of all time. He was able to overcome and still be the guy, even though he lost.
Yep.
He would win it back, and he'd still be the guy.
Yep. I don't disagree with you there, but I don't think Roman Reigns is Ric Flair.
Well, you've acted like he is over the last 3 years.
Okay.
You've acted over the last 3 years like you just talked about the stacking of Daniel Bryan and Edge. Embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't think Flair would have participated in that.
Right. But everything he's done, Roman, has been not just winning, it's been embarrassing people.
Yep.
So you've kind of treated him like he's the biggest deal in the world. I just think you've overdone it now, and it doesn't mean as much for me. I'm more interested about Cody's story than I am about the 800 or 900 days. I think you had something there in the 400 to 500 days thing.
Right.
I think you've passed it now. And you had the hottest guy in the universe, and you had him there for a minute.
Don't you think part of that, and I think I agree with you on that, but like at 400, 500 days, who was built up to take it from him? Like Cody feels at least like we've built someone to that level where it won't feel
but that's their
forced.
their fault,
Of
not
course it
my
is.
fault or your fault.
But who else was out there that you would have built up? Like, would it have felt believable? I think it was 2 years ago at SummerSlam that he faced Kevin Owens, or like you're just, I guess you could do that. I like KO, but it didn't feel like anyone had along the way. You're right. That's on them for booking it poorly, but you had to have someone ready. And Cody and Sami, to your point, a couple months ago, Sami felt ready at the Rumble. It was built properly.
Yeah.
And Cody does now. But along the way, I can't remember everything.
I just don't know how you're going to get Sami and Kevin back to
No, you're not.
a place that you ever had them.
No.
So you just throw that away and go, oh, well, you're not. Well, I'm
not throwing it away.
No,
it's
but
a reasonable point.
No, it's a great point.
Well, it's your point.
I just have an issue with the fact that that's happening.
Yeah. I think Cody's thing feels less important when the guy's only been champ for like 3. Someone else climbed the mountain, conquered the monster, right? Someone else completed the story, and now you're just like, yeah, now I'm here too. To me, it takes some of the shine off of it. So.
Okay, well, that's fair. Yeah. I just think that Cody got hurt, and everyone saw his injury. He came into WWE to fulfill his destiny, And I don't really care that a guy has held it for 800 days as opposed to whatever.
Was it a year or two ago that The Miz won it last second at Money in the
by the way,
Elimination Chamber?
I love The Miz.
Yeah, well, this is the first thing we're going to hardcore disagree on, I guess. But
How can you not like that guy?
he's just been around doing this same thing for too long.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
Again, not his fault.
Nope.
He does the best that he can with it.
True enough. I like his wife.
How can you not like
no,
Maurice?
she's great. So
She's fantastic.
it's going to be, a different WrestleMania than past years. I'm less interested in the undercard than any time in recent memory, but as invested in the top two matches as anything they've done recently. So
That would be my sentiment. And
it's not Brock and Roman again. Like
in other years, I would be more upset that I had to work an Ottawa Senators Columbus Blue Jackets game on WrestleMania Sunday at 6 o'clock with a 4 o'clock pregame show.
you don't have to be home till the main event, so
Right. This year, I'm kind of like,
it'll be fine.
it'll be fine.
Who's not pumped up for a late March, early April Senators Blue Jackets
April 2nd
Yeah,
in Columbus.
right.
Let's go.
You know that's going to be a barn burner.
I'm going to have to really work hard to pretend that I'm excited about that game.
I'm glad you came in, man. I was excited that you agreed
This has been
to do
awesome.
that. Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you've had me.
Yeah.
I don't know what you've thought of the beers, but I'll bring different beers
Very
next
much
time.
enjoyed that as well. Very much just enjoyed the fact that you brought beer, right? As we talked about off the top.
We'll talk music next time. We'll talk
100%.
some baseball.
We can compare hip concerts. I don't know how many of those you've been to, but it sounds
Probably
like a fair number,
about 17.
yeah. Okay, there you go. I thought I had a lot at 11, so we'll hit that
Best show,
next time as well.
one of the best shows I've ever been to, and people ask me about the best concerts. We'll talk about this next time.
Yeah.
But one of the best things that I am able to tell people, I ignore what I call a religious experience when they were here, the second last show they ever did.
I was at that show too.
I don't.
Second row on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't call it a concert. It was just something different.
It really was a vibe, man.
It was like nothing I've ever been to in my life. I did see them 3 days after Road Apples came out,
Oh, wow.
1991.
Was that a roadside attraction show?
No,
or
it was at the concert hall, which is no longer there. It used to be on Yonge Street, just north of Bloor, in
okay.
Toronto.
Yeah.
No air conditioning. Hottest place I've ever been in my entire life that wasn't along the equator.
Right.
But I think I was 16. Greatest show I've ever been to.
Nice, man.
I was just such a hardcore hip fan at that point. Road Apples came out. 3 days later, they're playing at the concert hall. I saw a number of another roadside attractions. Best one I saw was actually in my hometown of Markham Fairgrounds.
Oh, yeah?
Midnight Oil was the...
Yeah, okay. You've probably read the book.
Yeah.
The author, it's embarrassing. He's been on the podcast twice who wrote it, but it's a great history of the hip. Yeah.
Incredible, always incredible shows, but
Yeah.
one of the most influential bands of all time.
100%, man. It was, I had seen them, had tickets for what at the time was called the second show in Toronto on that last tour. Mm-hmm. They ended up adding one more on the Sunday night. So I was at the middle one in Toronto, and I essentially had said my goodbye, right? That was it. I went with some of my buddies who had helped get me into the band. The next morning, my sister texted me, and she lives up here in Ottawa as well, and said, hey, I got friends who are selling 2 tickets, second row on the floor. They want $1,200 for the pair. I went, I just said my goodbye. Like, I'm good, right? That's a bit steep for me at this point. And I know she's a fan, but not a hardcore fan like I was. And I said, tell you what, if you're just doing that for me, I'm good. If you want to go, I'm in, I'll go with you. But probably not at $600 a shot. Tell your friends, spend the week trying to get what they want for it, and then circle back if they don't, and we'll do whatever. I think we said almost half that, right? So she texted them and said, try and sell them, whatever, circle back. We'll just take your $600 now. Okay, so $300 a head.
Come on.
Yeah, they just took it right away. And fucking awesome, man. So yeah, went and did it all again.
I sat in the 100th
and,
level for probably that same price.
No doubt.
And still, I don't regret it.
No, of course not. It was an incredible show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad you came in, man. I'm glad we finally did this, and it's one we've been talking for a few months, trying to set a date and find a time.
I was away, but hopefully you'll have me back and you'll be on This Is Wrestling, the podcast for sure.
That's going to be great.
And I mean, we can explore so many other things, you and I.
We can do.
Friends.
We got things to do here, man. For sure we can do that. That is Lee Versage. He hosts The Drive on TSN 1200 from 2 to 6 p.m. every day, plus hosts the This Is Wrestling podcast. Make sure you check that out. We'll have links to the podcast in our show notes at tallcanaudio.com. Make sure you are following us on social media at tallcanaudio and that you're subscribed to... sometimes I tie myself in knots trying to get out of here, and you just say Tall Can Audio 700 times before the final minute's out.
No, that's it. You just got to go. What I always tell people is on the iPhone, because I'm not a technical wizard. I'm a wizard, but just not a technical wizard like Chris Jericho. The purple button that says podcast, and I type it in.
Yes.
Tall Can Audio.
Yep.
This
right
is Wrestling.
There. It'll come up.
And it just comes up.
It'll be there. It's going to be brilliant.
Any device.
Google Podcasts, Spotify,
Exactly.
Apple Pods. You know those irritating commercials that tell you this is an iHeartRadio station. We are an iHeartRadio podcast. We are there too. Tune in. If they're putting out podcasts, we're there. So check it out. Get subscribed. We appreciate you checking out this one.
And before we go, good luck in Game 7 with Sheldon Keefe and Matt Murray in net, as opposed to Andre Vasilevsky and John Cooper, who are the best coach and best goaltender. Good luck in the first round. I really, really hope they get it done this year.
What could possibly go wrong?
I'm actually cheering for Matt Murray, if that makes any sense. But I do.
He'll be backing up Samsonov, I think.
Yeah, and I hope they lose in 4,
Okay.
if that's the case.
All right. Appreciate your support on that. It's always warm feelings when people come in and
no, it's
and
actually really, it's
Leafs.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Like to think about,
it's a blast.
to think about how I know Leaf fans that don't watch anymore because they can't take it, and it's like if they win the first round, they'll start watching. But you, no. You're going to watch every game. You're going to tell me that Mitch Marner will be better this year. You're going to tell me in the playoffs he'll come to play. You're going to tell me that John Tavares will. Morgan Riley, he's so good. Guess what? It's the same story over and over and over again. It's like if you think Drew McIntyre was going to beat Roman Reigns, he's not. If you think Sami Zayn, I wonder. No, he's not.
If you think Lucy's just going to hold the football and let
if you think
Charlie Brown kick it.
The Tampa Bay Lightning for 2 months haven't been preparing for every nook and cranny the Leafs are going to throw at them, I can't wait. It's going to be so good.
I thought we were going to be fast friends.
We are. We'll all
this
be
was
on,
Lee Versage's one and only appearance on the Talking Audio.
We'll all be on the Devils bandwagon as the New Jersey Devils roll along in the
shutting
playoffs.
them out in 4 straight. Yeah.
Yes, he was so good again in games 3 and 4 of his first last year. Yeah. Anyway, so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You were a lot more fun about 4 minutes ago, but that's all right.
But I figured I got to cater to some people at some point, right?
That is episode 1088 of the Talkin' Audio podcast for Lee Versage. My name is Matt Robinson. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.